My dear, dear friend, inspired I am. I love, love, love you. I just wanted to make a response back to you because I think maybe my words were maybe a little misunderstanding or misunderstood. Now, I might have said I don't accept and allow some of the horrible things that are going on the planet. Yeah, but it's twofold. I mean, even one of my water bottles that I drink does say accept and allow. And it is, I don't accept and allow the behavior to continue. I accept and allow that there's something good about it, but I need to participate in what is good about it. Otherwise, why would it cross my path? Why is it in my face? Why is it in my reality? There's something good about the negative experience that, like this hollow dynamics that I use, is to transform what I see is negative. That's what I think we're all about, is that when you see something that is wrong, it's not about block and deal. And that's more, I guess the better word for it is, you go into any of these medical professions, all they want you to do is block and ignore the problem. And that I don't find acceptable. But I did mention about the amount of pain that I go through, and pain is a really, really good thing. It's not what you think it is. Pain is like a roadmap. It's a warning sign that says something's wrong here, and it helps guide anyone down a path. So it's like, what I've done is, because that pain is so friggin' massive, because not only do I have the pain from my experience, but I also feel the pain. I'm hypersensitive, and because it's so attached to the pain that anybody else would have, that is anywhere near what I experienced. If anybody's experienced worse, then I just automatically feel, oh my God, there's some. That only means that the way I view my world is more global. I'm a global thinker. So then when you have that pain, that's when you do this holodynamic tracking. And that's why I'm reading this book, because if it helped me, it'll help everybody. I'm dealing with massive amount of pain that I need to transform into experiencing the solution. So it's not a matter of feeling the pain constantly 24/7. That pain is like the drive. It unfolds my potential, not by being stuck in pain. I don't think you'll see anything to do with my life that's stuck in the pain. I don't believe in getting stuck in the pain. It's like, okay, here's the pain. When I do go through, like this week, immense sensation of pain, then I feel it. I just allow myself to feel and not fight that pain. As soon as you start fighting it, or as soon as you start saying, gotta feel positive, then you subliminally suppress that pain, and it'll come out in disease, and it'll come out in some form, a cold, a flu. It comes out in its own other way. So it is a matter of that when you've got pain, it's there for you to feel that pain. And what I try to do is, I actually try to feel as worse as I possibly can. And it's a cute little experiment if anybody else wanted to test it out. But it's like, if you really, really want to, you're crying, you're like in immense pain, and then try to not cry. I mean, you go into public and you try as hard as you can not to cry, or you try and live your day not crying, even though you got buckets of tears inside there. You try as hard as you can not to cry, and it's like next to impossible. It's like the next day you gotta cry. The next day after that you gotta cry. The next day after that you gotta cry. It's like the more you try not to cry, the more tears there are inside. You're just building up buckets and buckets and buckets there, the more you try to resist. So what I do is when I feel like crying, it's like, okay, cry 20 times harder than that. I mean, make it as horrible and really get into the pain. And as soon as you do that, all of a sudden you can't cry anymore. It's like, as soon as you give yourself permission to cry, you don't need to cry anymore. It's like, and the next day is like, as hard as, like, I try to have reasonable time frames to feel pain. So if I'm feeling really, really, really horrible, then I try to have reasonable time frames. So I'll say a week, like I'm going to make this feeling feel as bad as I possibly can for a full solid week. I ain't going to stop crying for one solid week. And it never fails that within a few hours, there's no way I could possibly force myself to cry. It just won't be there. Like, it's almost like as soon as you give yourself permission to feel, you don't need to have that feeling anymore. It is magic, but test it out. Try if you're feeling real bad, try and make yourself feel worse than you actually are, and do that for a solid week. Non-breaks, no breaks. I mean, go on a crying fest that you cry so freaking hard your eyes are swelling, and make sure you are crying as hard as you freaking can. Test it out. You can't do it. I don't care who is the most depressed person on the planet. As soon as you decide to intentionally do it, you won't be able to. So that's kind of what I do. And but for example, what does my pain want? My pain, wants to participate in the solution. It's definitely, I take zero responsibility to change the whole freaking planet. Although that is like the goal. I would drive myself crazy. I'm pretty sure I've posted that. I don't know how you might have missed that one, but I don't take on that responsibility to change the whole friggin' planet. When you kind of take yourself out of the problem and look at it from a different dynamic, all I have to do is worry about my own world and focus on my personal world. And as soon as my personal world is changed, then it will change the whole friggin' universe. And I mean, just because of my life purpose, or what I think my purpose is, I do think that it is meant to be somewhat of an influence. As just an example, you only have to affect one other person, and then that other person affects somebody else, and that, it multiplies. That I don't need to be tied with the whole friggin' planet. All I need to be tied with is my true self and the small group of people that I hang with. And if we are all like-minded, word of mouth is like the best form of advertisement you could possibly get. And so I'm joined with great people like you, inspirediam, and so many others, that if we all are, focusing on what it is that we want to unfold in our own personal lives, we will affect other lives. And that is how it works, is by not focusing on the bigger picture, although the bigger picture is the goal because you're a global thinker, but focusing on yourself while you're attached to that bigger picture. Is anything I'm doing causing any harm to anybody else? I have to be totally aware of my world, that I'm just not going to take my world for granted. Every single action I do is always going to be tied to the bigger outcome of what I want, and I want the whole friggin' planet to have a global peace. So any of my decisions will constantly have this awareness of, is what I'm doing actually causing harm to anybody else? And if I am I being open to being receptive to hearing how I may be harming somebody else's life. So um, that's about as far as it goes. Um, got hair in my mouth. So no, I don't live in pain. It is there, um, but it's transformed into as much love as I possibly can experience. Um, that smoking addiction has to go, and I know that I'm still in pain as long as I see that smoking addiction. So I have things still I'm working on, but I'm a work in progress just like everybody else. If I was perfect, the whole friggin' universe would change instantly. So I'm working on, constantly working on self with the end goal of it will affect my planet. So just thought I'd straighten that out, that I don't accept and allow bad behavior to go on. I am not trying to convince anybody else about their bad behavior. Um, I just won't play in that bad behavior. Like some of my other videos I recently posted is you just don't play their game. You just don't give them the power that they want. Focus on what it is that I want to focus on and try and create a new game. And that's ultimately how you sort of outlive evil, is live a good life. Um, those that have bad behavior, you know what? They're going to die eventually. They will create their own illnesses. They will create everything that they don't like all on their own. I don't have to do anything about it. But if I'm doing everything that's right, if I'm being the example that sustains my life and actually improves my life and my health, then maybe they might be influenced by just my lifestyle. So I don't need to be convincing anybody of anything else. I mean, a good example of that is this friggin' Voctor group. I mean, they're putting out how many videos out there. If you can see, a lot of people are trying to convince them of who you need to be, or try and explain yourself. And it's like, yeah, that's the game that would keep me locked into negative behavior. And I made attempts to try and communicate, because I'll always want to be offering that open door for communication. So in the beginning stages of when that harassment started up, I opened my doors to, open communication and try and resolve problems. But once I seen that there was just like no interest in solving problems, they just want to do whatever they want to do, that I would be in disagreement. I'm not trying to change their world. I'm playing my own. So I just sort of ignore them. And yeah, if they show up, I just block and delete. They're not part of my world. I've heard that they're uploading my videos and re-editing it and making it look like something it's not, and having their own discussions. I don't know if they're actually doing that, but I'm kind of hearing that that's what they're doing. So, in the meantime, they are really, really watching my stuff. Maybe they'll learn from my stuff, that I don't need to do anything. I don't need to pay attention to anything that they're doing. They're already sucking up information and they don't even know it. So it's like, I don't need to convince anybody of anything. I don't need to try and get anybody to change their ways of doing anything. All I need to do is focus on my own life in attachment with everything that's wrong that I think is not right. It is a matter of, yeah, you have to sort of accept and allow, but still look at it and say, what's good about this and what can I do to participate in that goodness? And that's about, like, there is a little bit of misunderstanding with that, but we're on the same page. Peace out.